Good afternoon, juror number 12. We're calling you B12.
That's fine, I have B12.
Okay. My name is Bernie Del Rio, and I'm an assistant state attorney, and I'm going to be asking you a series of questions about publicity that you answered already regarding the questionnaire. Do you understand where I'm coming from? Okay. Now, based on what you put down here in the questionnaire, I understand that you basically have heard some of the news is it on TV or on?
Yeah,
That's what you said here. So what I want to know from you is, do you recall, did you hear it when it was happening, meaning back in February of 2012, or is it more recently?
probably back in 2012 when it came on and all that stuff happened in Stanford.
Okay. And are you a frequent TV news watcher, or is that just something that caught your attention in this particular case?
I work nights and I sleep during the day, so no, I don't watch much TV.
Okay. And other than when it happened back in February of 2012, have you watched it or paid attention to it since then? Not at all? And I apologize. I can tell you're answering no, but for the record, you need to say yes or
No,
no.
oh, I'm sorry, that's okay, no, I don't watch TV.
Okay.
I watch my occasional.
Have you read anything about this in the newspaper?
I put the paper subscription over a year ago, so I don't read it. I'm sorry, I just don't.
Don't apologize. We live in a great country that everybody's allowed to do what they want, within reason. How about on the internet? Do you ever surf the internet and
I just play games, and I look at Facebook for what the kids are doing and the grandchildren
Sure.
are doing online, watch their baseball games.
okay. Regarding, and I apologize, what I was asking is regarding this case. As you're surfing the internet, have you paid attention to any particular sites, Twitter, or anything like that regarding this
I've
case?
seen it on the internet.
Okay. What was your first impression when you saw it on TV? And let me back up a second. What do you remember seeing on TV specifically?
Exactly. Well, I seen that Zimmerman was doing a neighborhood watch and someone got killed, and that's basically all I know.
Okay, sure. Did you have a first impression about that?
Not really. I mean, I noticed it was close to home, and I thought, yeah.
Right.
but,
And,
no, I don't think so.
and obviously, don't tell us your address, but how close would you estimate it is to the actual scene where it happened? And obviously, do not tell us your address. Is it a few miles or? Okay. Did you go to the scene at all or wander around there to kind of find out where it happened? Okay, so you weren't curious about it other than you watched it on TV and then just didn't pay attention to it anymore?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In terms of when you heard it on or saw it on TV, was it a local broadcast or was it a national broadcast? Do you recall? Okay. It wasn't like on Fox News or CNN or one of the national networks. Okay. And other than when it first happened, do you think you paid attention to it at all when it appeared, recently at all, like, a year, maybe 6 months ago, and then?
I heard that it was coming to trial, and then I'm like, oh no, I have to reach it today. And that's basically
Sure.
came down
Now,
to.
did you get excited that you had jury duty and then you would be able to participate in our wonderful criminal justice system?
That's it.
Okay. Okay. And when you first heard about it, and I know you didn't really pay much attention to it, did you form an opinion about the case at that time?
Yes, sir.
In terms of whether the defendant, Mr. Zimmerman, was guilty or whether he was innocent?
No.
Okay. Have you done any research? Once you found out you were potentially going to be on the jury, you go, wow, let me go check on the internet, or let me go back and, ask some people, that kind of stuff.
No, actually, when I knew that I was going to enter into it and they were doing it, I made sure I did not watch the TV. I did not want to form an opinion in case.
Thank God you did that, ma'am. So you were aware of what was going to happen, and you on purpose tried to remain neutral, right?
Yes.
And do you feel that's true still to this day? In other words, you feel whatever you saw on TV would not influence you one way or the other in terms of being an objective person and being able to listen to all the evidence and the law that Judge Nelson will give to you?
Yes,
You feel
I feel different.
you have no issue or doubt about that, in other words? Okay. In terms of the coverage you did see, do you remember what the coverage was like? Did they focus on Trayvon Martin, or did they focus on George Zimmerman, or was it just a pure facts?
You know, I seen the picture of the kid on TV, and I really didn't pay really attention to what they were saying. I mean, it was on
Sure.
a lot of the news, but I just,
Okay.
I'm not going to sit and watch the news. I watch shows.
Do you always believe everything you hear or see on TV in terms of the news? Do you think they always get it right? Okay. Have you gone, and I apologize if I ask you this, you have not gone on any kind of legal website or anything like that to check up on the case at all, right? Okay. And have you talked to anybody about the case? I know you mentioned TV, but have you talked to any neighbors, family, friends about the case at all?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Even after they found out you potentially were a juror?
I will say, I said, oh my goodness, I might be on Zimmerman. That's all I said.
Okay. So nobody said anything, oh, let me give you some advice, here's what I think. Now, do you like to watch any of the shows that have commentators, you know, these so-called experts that talk about the law and all that? Have you watched any of that stuff on CNN, Fox, all these shows?
Yes, I watch my shows that I have recorded, and I go through this advertisements because I don't like advertisements, so that's what I'm telling you, I don't get much news on cable.
Sure. So you like to watch CSI? And is it just CSI, is it the original one, and then they have a CSI New York and CSI Miami? Are you like, I don't want to say addicted, but do you like to like all those shows?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now, you realize that this is the real world and that's make-believe, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And finally, ma'am, regarding the news that you watch, did you hear any commentary about anybody about the case when it was first happening? Did you hear any comments from any attorneys on the case or anything like that?
No, sir.
Okay. So do you have a doubt about whether your perception or consideration of the actual evidence and testimony will be impaired in any way? You feel like that will not impact you at all? Okay, you're picked as a juror. You're lucky. You're juror number 1 over there sitting in one of the nice chairs. No, I'm sorry. No, I apologize. The judge actually decides.
Did you see my face? He's giving you a hypothetical.
I'm giving you a hypothetical. I apologize. You're picked as a juror, right? You're sitting, listening to the evidence, and then you go, wow, hold on. I remember some stuff that, you know, when I spoke earlier, I didn't. If that happened, do you think still you could keep an open mind regardless of the thoughts that entered your mind in the sense of what you remembered about the case?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so there's no doubt in your mind that you can be objective and be fair to both the defendant and to the state of Florida. You can keep an open mind. You have not formed an opinion.
I have not formed an opinion.
If I may have a moment, Your Honor. Mr. O'Mara, may I ask you some questions now?
To be on a jury. If you really want, we can how are you going out? Afternoon, how are you? Good. Appreciate you taking the time and that you came down when we asked you to. I want to ask you some questions about what Mr. DeLeon ended off with. Because if we could ask one question of every juror, it would be, can you be fair and impartial? Once you say yes, really nothing else matters. And if you say no, then you shouldn't be on a jury panel no matter what it is. But what we do, and the reason why there are books written on this and whatnot, is we have to try and find out other things that may affect you. And what we're talking about now is just what we call pretrial publicity. So it's great when you answer questions and say, I can be fair and impartial when Mr. DeLeon asked you that, but I want to vet into that just a little bit more, okay? As an example, you said a moment ago that I think your words were you saw a picture of a kid, right? And was that Trayvon Martin you're talking about or George Zimmerman? Trayvon Martin? It's Trayvon, yeah. So, as an example, when you come into the courtroom, you bring everything with you from your life experience and your common sense, and then you bring in stuff that you found out about this case, even minor stuff, like a picture of Trayvon Martin. And you may have seen pictures of George Zimmerman. My concern is that we talk about what you have, what you saw, so that we can get it out now, because the worst thing that could happen is what Mr. Delarionda asked you earlier. The worst thing is for you to remember something that we haven't talked about here today, back when you're a juror, and that impacts on how you view the case. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So tell me about the picture that you saw, if you remember it.
I just showed him with a hoodie on his head, and it said that he died, and there was
Okay.
a neighborhood watch, and that's basically all I remember about it. I mean, it said that he was, they did, I forget what they were saying, something about the conflict or something.
Conflict between the two?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else that you can remember about, and I'm going to walk you through a few others, but anything else you can remember about either the picture or the conflict that has now come back to mind?
That he was in the neighborhood and that Mr. Zimmerman followed him.
Okay. Let me use that as an example. So that's something you heard about, and as Mr. Delarionda asked you, you don't believe everything that you hear, but when you get news on TV, does it come across to you as at least with the air of correctness? Maybe which station I should ask first, huh?
9, but I mean, half the stuff, they only give you partial information anyway, and that's why I really don't
Okay.
watch it.
So let's say under the question that you just said with Mr. Zimmerman being on neighborhood watch. You come to us with that, right? That's something you think was true?
Yes.
Okay. If you found out under that scenario that that wasn't true, that the evidence here was different than that, how do you resolve that conflict?
I would listen to only what I hear here in the courtroom,
Why?
because that's what I'm supposed to do as a juror.
Good answer. The concern is, of course, that there are 1,000 things you carry into the courtroom from everything, but particularly from the pretrial publicity here, and we'll never be able to figure out all of what those are. But I'd like you to tell me one or two other things that you've heard about this case. You know what happened in Sanford, right? You mentioned that, so you knew it was close to home, right?
Yes.
You knew that it was Sanford Police Department. Did you hear that?
Well, I guess it was in Sanford, so
Okay.
I mean, I didn't hear that.
All
but
right.
assumed
I don't
that.
want to put memories that aren't there. So tell me if you can recall any other specifics about either the event back in February of 2012 or anything that you've known has happened since, right through till today. That's okay.
I don't know.
The reason why I'm asking, and I haven't stopped asking yet, is the fear that we all have that if we don't talk about it much here today,
Yeah.
and really try and almost make you remember, then I don't want it to affect your memory once you're on a panel. If you ask me what my best meal was in the past 3 weeks, I couldn't tell you, but if you reminded me that I was at this really neat Italian restaurant and had a great something, then I say, oh yeah, I remember that. I don't want to be the one to sit here and say to you, what did you have for dinner at the Italian restaurant 3 weeks ago? Wasn't it lasagna? But I do want to make sure that we get into the idea of what may be in the sort of back of your memory about this case.
I do remember.
See, it works.
I remember, I think it was his wife or something where they raised money on the web or something.
Okay.
I did hear that,
What do you remember about that?
that they raised money and then they paid bills with it. or something.
I'm sorry?
They paid their bills with the money.
Okay. There was a defense fund? Is that where
I
you...
don't know what it was.
Okay, that's fine.
Pay much attention.
Let's just use your memory and not mine then. So they raised some money
Yeah,
to help them pay bills?
yes.
Okay. And let's just say that that becomes a non-issue in the case. You don't hear a word about that in the case. Is that going to then cause any concern with you that there's something out there that wasn't answered by the facts of the case? Okay. So can we sort of agree, not a promise from you, but can we sort of agree that what you may bring with you from what you remember hearing about the case, you're going to leave at the doorstep?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And if, during the time that you sit on the panel, if you get selected, something else comes to mind, like we just did now with the raising money, that you'll be very cautious not to allow that memory to take the place of a fact that does or doesn't come from the courtroom?
Yes, sir.
Can you do that?
I think I can.
And again, I'm not asking, do you promise me to do this? But the other concern is this. You're sitting with your fellow jurors, the case is over, and now you're what we call deliberating. You're listening, you're trying to decide what to do. If memories have come up during the trial that didn't come into the courtroom, right? Do you think it would be appropriate then to talk to the other jury members about that or not? Why not?
Because I'll only go by what we hear.
We've talked about a few things about what we entitle pretrial publicity, and you mentioned or that you just remembered about raising money. Anything else that you can recall if you really just thought back in the past, 16 months this has been going on? Nothing at all?
No.
And you say you listen to Channel 9 or watch Channel 9, is that correct?
Well,
When you do?
usually if I do, yeah.
Okay. And you don't get the paper anymore? What paper did you get?
Sunday.
Okay. Do you ever pick up the Sunday papers or?
No, because I work all night long. I get off at 7 a.m. and so I don't read the paper. I just go to bed.
Okay. If you're not watching Channel 9, are there any national channels that you watch?
I usually watch Channel 39, which is the shows, no news.
Game shows, is that what that is? Or?
I watch game shows on, that's why it's 9, because I watch Family Feud in the morning, so it's usually the news.
Got it. If I were to throw out a couple of stations like Fox News or CNN, HLN, ABC, NBC, CBS, are there particular ones of those that if you were to watch, you would?
No.
No, it's okay. Even it's okay. You don't have to watch their shows. I'm just curious if you do.
If there's like a game show on a channel, I watch it, but I don't just turn the TV on to watch the news.
Okay.
So it's only if it's on and I'm still there.
And you mentioned some of the shows aside from game shows is, I think you said that you watch CSI type shows on occasion?
Yeah.
Okay. So when David Caruso is up there finding things out in about 30 seconds, would you expect that to happen the same way in a courtroom?
No, it's fiction.
So
I
again,
know it's fiction.
okay, so again, though we're not going to ask you to leave your common sense behind, you'll leave those experiences at the doorstep so that when you come into a criminal courtroom, unique as it is, that you'll just listen to our rules and just listen to this evidence?
Yes.
I might have a moment, Your Honor. Just a few more. And if I think you sort of already answered this question, then I'll stop. But I want to ask you one to make sure that I get it. If you had to quantify how many times you've actually heard TV, read in the newspaper, heard from friends about this case in the past 16 months, just sort of precise events where you've heard something about it, how many times do you think that would
I
be?
would say probably 3 or 4.
3 or 4? Okay. So do you have any other awareness about the George Zimmerman case other than what we've now talked about?
No.
Okay. Is there anything, and we're right now sort of limited to pretrial publicity and whatnot, we'll have a chance to talk to you again, but anything that we've talked about, either Mr. Del Riondo or myself, that you would like to talk further about with us? Questions that we sort of, something that we've said that have raised a comment or a question in your mind? Okay. If it happens, you can only do it when you come back and we talk to you again. We'd much rather know that we've addressed your questions and have you work on them, because if you sit on a jury and you're thinking about why we didn't ask you a question or why you didn't get to answer it, you wouldn't be paying as much attention. So for the next time we talk to you, we'll just make sure that you'll take that on and ask us about it.
Yes, sir.
Thanks. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Counsel want to approach? B12, if you'll bring her down to the 4th floor. Thank you. We'll be back with you. Bring in the next juror. There are people.
B29.
Okay, good afternoon. The attorney, please be seated. The attorneys are going to ask you some questions, and Mr. De La Ronda will be going first. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, ma'am. My name is Bernie Del Rio, and I'm just going to ask you some questions regarding the questionnaire that you filled out. And you're going to be under the name of B29, so I'm not going to on purpose mention your name, and please on purpose don't mention your name either. Okay, nor am I going to ask you your address. We've already got it here. I did want to ask you, and with the deputy's permission or help, may we get her a questionnaire and give it to her? Because when you wrote, the ink you used, I think, was a light blue, and when we copied it, it didn't copy that well. And I want to make sure I've got in there what you said about what you had heard. May I tell you, may I just use the questionnaire? Thank you. Okay, I'm now able to read clearly what you put on here. And one of the things you mentioned, you were from Chicago.
Yes.
Okay. Is that, thank you, sir. Did you put that in there because you had just recently moved here?
Yeah, I just arrived 4 months ago.
Okay, so you didn't have much exposure to the case when it happened?
No.
Back in February of 2012. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the purpose why you said, I'm from Chicago, you just got here, basically?
Yes.
So would I be fair to say, based on that you really have an open mind? You haven't made an opinion one way or the other about the case?
Yes,
Is that
I don't.
correct?
No
Okay.
opinion.
And the law requires, and Judge Nelson will explain this if you're picked as a juror, to obviously set aside anything you may have heard or seen on TV. You think you could do that?
Yes.
Okay. Let me go back a second, if I could, and delve a little bit in terms of what you may have been exposed to. And I know it's, you arrived, what, 4, 5, 6 months ago?
4 months ago.
Okay. I gather when it happened back in February of 2012, you had no understanding of what had happened at all?
News, I don't really pay attention too much to the news, so I really didn't have, I don't have no idea.
Okay.
I really don't know anything about the case. I didn't even know who he was until when they came in. I remember driving and seeing a picture, and announcing that there were going to be traffic. And then I had a letter sent in and said that I had to be a jury. So I wasn't expecting nothing.
Oh, so you just recently realized that you potentially were going to be a
Yes.
juror and there might be some traffic problems near the
Yeah, I was
courthouse?
just worried about the traffic, that's all.
Okay.
Because I'm from Chicago, we got a lot of traffic. So.
Thank God we don't have it, a lot
Not
of
like
it
the way
here.
Chicago does, so I was
Okay.
preparing myself.
And back when you were in Chicago, do you recall hearing anything about the case, even if you didn't really pay attention to it?
I probably heard of the news, but never paid attention to it. It wasn't something that stood in my, like a Martin Luther King situation, like a holiday. It wasn't
Right.
something that I remembered.
Okay. And you don't watch any TV news at all?
No, not really.
Okay. Even local?
No, I don't like watching the news, period.
Okay, so you don't watch Fox or CNN or any of the national?
No, I'm more of a Bravo.
I'm sorry,
I'm
what?
more of a Bravo channel, like drama shows.
Gotcha.
Like,
What kind of shows do you like to watch?
like real New Jersey housewife or Bad Girls Club. I just like drama. I don't
Okay.
like to watch anything that's happening in the real world. Just like to watch cable.
Yes, ma'am. And I gather you haven't read anything about this case in the newspaper either? Is that a no for the
Yeah.
record?
No.
I can tell you're shaking your head, and I
Yeah.
apologize for asking you
I'm
that.
sorry, I'm not,
No.
I don't come to the court often, so.
Okay. How about on the internet? Did you do any browsing on the internet?
No.
Okay, even when you got the summons, God, I might be coming to this case.
I didn't know I was coming to the case.
Okay, all right.
So I'm a Facebook fanatic, just Facebook. Friends, talk, and go to work.
How about from any friends or either on Facebook or just friends telling you, oh, you might be a potential juror in the George Zimmerman case at all?
I came here with my husband, so we really don't have too many friends, but just the people we met at church. And I didn't mention to anybody that I was coming for a jury because you don't talk about going to court. It's not something fun to do, so I didn't mention to anybody I was coming up for a jury.
Okay. So the bottom line is, you're like a blank slate. You're
Yeah.
just going to listen to the evidence and make your decision on what actually happens in this courtroom, if you're picked as a juror, obviously.
Yes.
And rely on the evidence that comes out of the courtroom and the law that Judge Nelson will give to you. And obviously, use
Yes.
your God-given common sense, too.
Yes,
Can you do all that?
yes, I could.
Okay. If by chance, and I know you weren't exposed to it, but you're picked as a juror and you get to sit in one of those chairs back there, and you start listening to the facts, like, oh, hold on, I do remember even when I was in Chicago hearing about, A or something about the case. If you did, do you think you could still make your decision on what actually the evidence that comes out in the courtroom?
I would, whatever's in the courtroom is what I go by, not by what people say.
So-
Always learned that lesson.
Okay.
People always add more things than others, so,
And do you always believe what's in the news?
no.
Okay.
That's why I don't watch them.
Okay. Thank you very much, ma'am. I'm sorry, Mr. O'Meara, can I ask you some questions, or Mr. West?
Mr. West?
Yes, thank you. Afternoon.
Good
Hi,
afternoon.
my name is Don West. I have a few questions for you.
Okay.
When you do watch TV for news, what stations do you like?
I'm from Chicago, so I'm still not alert on the channels here. But when I did watch regular TV, it would be WGN, which is Channel 9 in Chicago. And basically, that would be for the temperature, before I would go to work. I don't know any of the news channels, like I said, all I watch is basically, I work third shift, so I work overnight. So during the morning when I'm sleeping, by the time I'm getting up, there's really not news. 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, I'm going back to work. So the channel that I would watch in Chicago would be WGN, Channel 9. I don't know what channel is here.
Okay, maybe I didn't hear you say when you actually moved to
4
Seminole
months.
County.
4 months ago.
4 months. And
And right when we got here, we got cable, because I can't live without it. Sorry.
because of the
Yeah, I just like my shows.
reality shows?
Yeah, I
is-
love my reality shows.
Uh-huh.
So right when we got here, I don't know the channels. I mean, different cable places have different channels. So I really can't tell you what are the news stations here, because I really don't know.
Are you able to see television at work?
No.
There's no radio or television about the news where you work?
I mean, I work at a nursing home. The residents probably watch TV, but having 16 patients a day, you don't have time to watch TV.
Yeah, unfortunately, the questionnaire that you prepared is not very easy to read.
Okay.
I don't know,
Well, we didn't have a book, table, and I had to write on my leg. So that's why it was really
Yeah,
sloppy. So
yeah.
it was kind of hard.
thank you. You work at a nursing home?
Yes.
Doing what?
I'm a CNA
And do you have day-to-day contact with the residents there?
every day.
And would you have talked with any of them about this case?
I work in a dementia and Alzheimer's floor. They really don't remember anything.
Very unlikely that
To
the
talk about
patients...
anything.
Mhm. How about coworkers?
I only been working there for a month. A lot of them are different cultures. So they all have like, they speak English, but not English to me. So, and in the nighttime, it's third shift, you really don't speak to too many people. I speak to one person, but she really, it's hard to understand her.
So you don't read any newspapers?
Oh, no. I don't read any newspapers.
And you don't watch any local television?
I watch TV, but I don't watch the news. Every time you hear about the news about something bad happening, so I choose not to watch the news. Only for like temperature, and I get the temperature on my phone.
Have you seen any of the lawyers involved in this case interviewed on television?
I haven't seen anything.
Have you watched any of the hearings
No,
or are aware of any of the decisions that have been made in the case?
no,
Do you use the internet at all for news?
no,
Do you go on any website to get headlines or updates?
no.
What is your source of news?
It's nothing. I go to work and come home. I have kids. I really don't establish myself outside the world. So I worry about my kids and about my job. I do my job very good. Like I said, I don't really pay attention to too much whatever, unless it's a tornado, hurricane, or something that's going on, that you would hear from everybody. When I came here, I wasn't expecting anything big trial, jury duty. When you say jury duty, you say you're doing something that you have to do. So I was just coming. This is my first time ever being picked for a jury duty. So I was doing what I was told, just coming in.
And you got a summons in the mail?
In the mail, yes.
Right. And at what point, maybe I missed that point too. Did you not know until this morning that you were a possible juror in this case?
Yeah, when I came in.
Okay.
Yes, when I came in.
Did you know that a jury was being chosen beginning today in this case?
In the case, when I came in, people were talking about it. But again, to me, I just figured it was one of the trials. Because the officer said we were going to be chosen for different courts, for different trials. So I was just patiently waiting.
So as you were waiting in line and as apparently you heard a traffic alert?
No, I seen the sign when I was coming in.
And
When on the weekend, when I was driving, because I don't live too far, I would see trial, June 10, traffic, so I was telling and then I seen the newscast, and I was like, wow, it must be something real big happening, but I didn't think anything of it. So I came out of work at 7 this morning. I still haven't slept. Came straight, showered, came straight here. So as much as I know is what I'm hearing from people, like when they're conversating in the day room, or people that are talking.
Were people talking about this case after they got here this morning?
They were just mentioning it was a big case. I had someone next to me that was mentioning there was a big case coming here, but they didn't point out who it was, how it was, and where was it going to be. So I just stood to myself and kept.
I don't know whether to call you Ms. 29.
B29?
Ms. B29.
Okay.
You had mentioned about hearing a newscast or something about this show, about this case. Was that this morning on your way in?
No.
I missed
said
that.
there was a sign when I was coming in. There's a sign letting them know that, I guess it's like a neon sign as you drive by, letting them know that there's a trial going on with traffic. I see the newscast, the stands, the little trucks that are out there. So I was saying, wow, it's gonna be a big trial. Here I would never think I was gonna be in this trial. I'm just thinking I'm doing jury duty. So I'm coming back, so I'm just coming to do what they sent me to do. Coming for jury duty.
Welcome to jury duty.
Thank you. It's been a long day.
Since you did mention the fact that you worked until 7 o'clock this morning, is that your regular shift?
That's my shift. I work from 10:30 to 7.
And is it your plan to continue working if you're selected on this jury?
When I talked to my boss about the jury duty, I let them know. She said that if it was a continuance for the week, because sometimes it's 2 or 3 days, that's what my boss told me, that they would exclude me for those 3 days if I have to do jury duty for the process, because I need to sleep for me to focus.
Okay, so your
I could be
employer,
excused.
your employer has given you up to 3 days?
Whatever days. I mean, again, I wasn't coming here for a long term.
Sure.
I was coming for just jury duty. So when I gave the summons to my boss said, sometimes those trials take a couple of days. Find out how many days and we'll exclude you for the couple of days that you need.
Okay,
From there on, I'm going day by day.
okay. If the case were to take a long time, several weeks, would that create a real hardship for you and your family?
No, I work part-time. My husband's the bread provider.
Well, explain that to me then. If you were on this case and it took several weeks, up to a couple of months, would you be able not to work during that time period?
Yes, I would not be, I work because I want to work, and I want to keep my CNA license. For you to keep your CNA license, you have to work at least 3 days out the week. If not, then it expires. And my husband receives money. I have a 19-year, I got older kids. I got a 19-year-old son, 18-year-old son. I got a big family. We all help each other. I don't have a problem with coming in and if it's something that I need to do to help. But if I'm not picked, then I go back to my regular life,
Okay, so
back to work.
let me be sure I understand that. So right now you work the night shift,
Night shift.
and if you were on the jury, you would quit working for as long as the case took?
Well, if I'm being chosen, am I being chosen because I have to do this, or if this is an option? Is what I don't understand.
All right, well, one of the questions, and that's at least, I would suggest, just as a time frame. If you were to be involved in a case for 4 to 6 weeks, would that cause you a hardship at work or with your family?
No, it won't cause me harm.
So in other words, would you simply not work for as long as it took to finish the case?
Yes,
And you're able to do that with
Yes.
your husband and, okay. One of the other aspects of that was if the jury was sequestered. Do you know what that means?
no.
Okay.
Explain.
Basically, that if the court decides to sequester the jury, that means that the jury would be kept separate
Oh, yes, I heard.
from their families and separate from everybody else, and would,
Would that be a problem? That might be a problem.
okay.
So,
What are the ages of your children?
I got a 19-year-old, 18-year-old, 14-year-old, 15-year-old, 10-year-old, and my set of twins that are 3.
Mhm. And are you the primary caretaker of them?
Me and my husband.
Sure.
And
And
my mom.
when does he work?
He works in the morning.
All right. Well, if you were sequestered for 4 to 6 weeks or so, that would be a problem for you? And you were not able to basically be with your family?
Emotionally, yeah, that would be a problem for me.
Sure.
But mentally, if it's something that I have to do, I would do it. I wouldn't have a problem with doing it. And I'm pretty sure my husband would be understanding. If it's something that I have, if I'm doing because it's something that, you know, I requested to do. My mother also stays with us, so she's a very, very help.
Okay, let me understand what your situation is, because the question is, how much of a hardship would this cause for you and your family? How much of a hardship would this cause for you and your family if you were selected for the jury and it lasted up to a couple of months, and that you were sequestered away from them during that time period?
It would be hard.
Would you prefer not to do that if you had the choice?
Any mother wouldn't want to do that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
I mean, I'll help in any type of way that I could help. But if it's not possible, it's not possible.
okay. If I understand what I think you're saying is that, of course, you would perform your civic duty, and you
Yes.
would make those sacrifices.
If I have to do the sacrifice, I will make the sacrifice. But for my kids, if it would be something that if they would understand, the older kids would understand, the little ones won't. But if I have to, if I have to do it, my husband is very understanding to help me in whatever is it that I need to do to help.
I think I understand that, but if you had your personal choice would be
My
that-
personal choice would be yes.
that you would not, that
No,
you,
that I would. I would help.
oh, I thought,
Emotionally, we're talking about feelings, being away from your kids, it's hard. But something that I would do, that I would want to do, physically and mentally for myself, I wouldn't mind doing it.
okay, so you're saying that while it might be a challenge, and it might be difficult emotionally, that you believe that you would be able to do that?
Yes.
Okay, great. I know that you're,
It's okay.
yeah, we can take a minute if you
No,
want.
it's okay. It's
In
just
fact, I'd like to
okay.
grab some water, if you don't mind. Okay. Let me get just a little bit clearer idea of when it was that you first heard about the case. I know you were in Chicago, is that right?
Yeah.
And do you remember anything about the case that kind of stuck in your mind?
I'm not trying to be rude, but I just remember people selling T-shirts and some little boy passed away. That's all I remember. In Chicago, we have a lot of crime, and there's a lot of kids that pass away. So I really, that's all I remember. It's just that there was a kid involved.
Did you know, or do you know now, how old Trayvon Martin was?
Nope.
No. So you don't know whether he was 12 years old or 17 years old?
I'm assuming he was a kid. I don't.
When you say you assume he was
Yeah.
a kid, what age range do you assume he was?
Yeah, 12, 13.
When you first heard about the case and you assumed that he was 12 or 13, do you know why that was? Was it based upon things that you heard or pictures that you saw?
Pictures. I just seen T-shirts. People were selling T-shirts and stuff, and again, it was just another day for me. You know, you hear a lot of the news, and
Sure.
I don't pay. That's exactly why I don't watch the news. There's so much bad stuff happening.
Did it affect you in any particular way because you're a mother yourself? You have children around the same age of Trayvon Martin.
As any mother, it would affect to lose your child. within a car accident or gang violence, of course, it affects any mother.
Being a mother yourself, having a number of children that you've raised and are continuing to raise, do you feel that you can give George Zimmerman a fair trial?
Your Honor, may I object at this time regarding this is way beyond publicity?
You can answer that question, but I'd like to keep it within the parameters. You may answer that question.
Okay, what was the question again? I'm sorry.
Well, you had mentioned, the question was whether you believe that knowing, from at least your opinion based upon what you knew or know, that Trayvon Martin was a minor at the time of his death, and you being a minor, whether with that knowledge, if you can give George Zimmerman a fair trial.
Everybody needs a fair trial. Everyone. And I don't know if it's the same, but I feel that at the end of the day, you have to listen to both sides. Everybody has a side, and the truth is, since I don't know what's going on and how, I can't make the judgment of saying he's guilty or the other person was guilty. I have no idea. But I would believe that I will give them both a fair trial.
Do you feel very confident and very comfortable that you haven't made up your mind in any way yet?
Yeah, very good.
And that you could very well find at the end of this case that George Zimmerman is not guilty? Do you think you
Yes.
have any trouble with that?
I don't have any trouble with that.
Any trouble with that at work or at home, or any of your friends that might say, how could you possibly let a guy who shot and killed a kid get away with it?
Same objection, Your Honor, beyond the scope of the matter here today.
Those are matters that the court anticipated would be questions that would be asked of the entire venire when we got to the 21.
Likewise, may I have 1 minute?
Yes, sir.
I'm focusing just on the aspect of publicity,
Okay.
and that is that you first heard about the case in Chicago. Was that on the news?
Conversations.
With family or friends, do you know?
Friends, yeah.
Okay. Did they take a position in the case that you're aware of?
Did they take sides?
Yes, exactly. That's better than I said it.
Yes.
And what sides did they take?
The child's side, of course, he was a child.
Uh-huh. And did you talk with them about why they felt that way?
No, it didn't go beyond, I didn't conversate. It wasn't a conversation that, basically I didn't talk about it. It was people talking, saying this happened, I heard about it, and it was done and over with. It wasn't something that we kept conversating and people were voting which side you take. It was none of that. It just happened.
Did you agree with them or argue with them or have any conversation about why they would form that opinion?
No,
So you never were influenced or persuaded yourself by what they said?
no,
Did you form even a preliminary opinion about, hey, I've just seen the news, it looks like a kid was killed, and my friends are saying it must be Mr. Zimmerman's fault,
no,
and you never really thought more about it?
no.
Okay. Can you estimate how many times you may have had conversations with friends like the one you described?
Once,
Really?
when it happened.
Uh-huh.
And then the news was over, and people stopped talking about it, and it was done and over with. We moved on to something else. I mean, there is negativity every day. So he wasn't in the news 24/7, is what I'm saying. He wasn't in everybody's conversation 24/7. I mean, we all have our lives. So I didn't really pay attention. I wasn't really focusing myself. I was never thinking I'm going to be here. So I didn't memorize anything. I'm just going by the story, whatever happened, it was done.
Not that you would be expected to study for this.
Okay.
The idea being, though, if the case seemed to catch your attention, maybe it was something that you followed along the way, that you may have heard things good, bad, indifferent, right, wrong. You just never had those kinds of...
Never had those conversations.
And then you moved to Florida 4 months ago, and it didn't even start then.
It didn't start. I didn't.
So even though this case has been in the news pretty much every day.
Just about.
Yeah.
I didn't expect. It wasn't an expectation. Like I said, when I came here, I took the paper to my boss. I've never been in jury duty. I was explaining to my boss, what is it that I need to do? I'm not from Florida, I'm from Chicago. She gave me directions on helping me how to get here. My husband brought me at 7:30 this morning. I've been to the flea market across the street.
Sure.
So I remember seeing the traffic sign saying there was going to be traffic this week. I seen the newscast. But here we go, in Chicago you got newscasts everywhere all the time, so I wasn't paying attention. It wasn't something that I studied. It was something that I just came because I had jury duty.
When you say newscast, you're talking about all that...
The trucks, all the trucks that were out there.
Sure.
I mean, that's all I really noticed. I was like, wow, the trucks. You know, hurricane, I was just thinking about anything other than a big time truck.
Sure.
Because I didn't even know this was a court. When I would drive by, I didn't know that this was the court.
Do you usually drive past...
Walmart and back home. That's the street we take. I'm sorry.
Okay.
My husband really don't know too much.
So you've maybe traveled past this place
Yeah, we just
100
passed.
times, but never noticed what was here?
No, I never paid attention.
When you mentioned to your boss that you had jury duty, it's a woman?
Yeah, she.
Did she say anything about the jury being picked on this case?
Nope.
Huh, okay.
She just told me where to go. She said, make sure you get third, and make sure you get a note to bring back to work.
You said that you believe that you can give George Zimmerman a fair trial. Did I hear you correctly?
Yes.
And if the state doesn't prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt, that you could confidently say not guilty?
Objection, again, way beyond the matter of this question here.
Those are questions that can be asked of the entire venire when we have the 21 in the box.
I'm not able to ask the juror.
You're going to ask her the 21 again, so this is pre-publicity venire individual. Then when we have 21 people in the jury box for jury selection, those are the appropriate questions at that time.
Okay. All right, I understand. Thank you, ma'am.
When you're ready, Counsel Roach.